All right, welcome back into Union Station. We're talking NFL draft with Iowa head coach Kirk Ferentz, where 5 former Hawkeyes heard their names called in the draft. Running back Caleb Johnson, defensive lineman Y.E. Black, offensive lineman Mason Richmond, Connor Colby, and then tight end Luke Lachey. It's got to be rewarding when you see guys go every year.
Yeah, it's fun, and we always tell people, like, there's you walk in our building, a lot of pictures of guys that have done well and have gone on to the pros, but that is not a program goal, never has been, never will be. But I tell people and tell our players, like, going to the NFL is just the byproduct of having a good college career and doing things the way you're supposed to do it, and all those guys have done a great job, so really proud of them. Our number one goal is graduation, like it should be at any college. Second thing is just having a good experience in the community and hopefully be a good contributor. And we encourage that and actually, strongly encourage that. And then, best experience they can have in football. So, some guys get that opportunity. You got to be fortunate in some ways. Usually you have to play through injury or overcome injuries. That's kind of part of the terrain with what we do. But, and you got to have a good attitude and the ability to really be focused on something and stick with it through good times, bad times. And that's common now with all the guys who are going to go to the NFL. Just I hope they all do great. Proud of the guys that have gone, but I'm probably more proud that our guys tend to go there, and at least a lot of them have had very healthy careers because I think they understand that you got to show up every day and go to work. There's nothing. Certainly in the NFL, nobody's got job security. Well, no, I shouldn't say nobody, Tom Brady, but it's such a small number of people in the NFL. We all lose sight of that. Most guys are very expendable, and so it's all about showing up and doing your best. I always tease our guys. I said, they don't really care about your development, your feelings. They care about your production. Now you get paid pretty well. There's a trade-off for that, but it is a job. And all of our guys that come back say the same thing. It's a lot more fun in college.
It's fascinating to me. I looked at the list and I compiled it, and it was 39 players now you have on NFL rosters, which is really impressive. And then there's a few others probably will get signed, like a Brandon Sheriff, and then a couple of players having tryouts. What is it about your program, do you think, and you could probably just tout that prepares them so well for the NFL that some people sometimes negatively think that that's all you're here to do is prepare people for the NFL?
Yeah. I think, it wasn't by design, but the way we do things offensively, defensively, special teams are, when the NFL people come evaluate, it's especially true with the offensive linemen and the offense in general. One thing we hear a lot back from NFL people is they don't have to project. They can see our guys actually executing things they'll have to do, skills they'll have to use when they go to the NFL. So I think that anytime you evaluate a player, when you have to project, and there's always some projection going on, but you have to project them. That's a little scary. So I think they appreciate that. They can really, don't have to use their imagination to see what a guy's going to look like, maybe in their system. And I think probably just the other part, again, is just what I talked about. I mean, it's simple as this sounds. It's spent 6 years in the NFL. I was always fascinated how many guys didn't make it that probably had enough talent to make it or would make it for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. Should have been there 5, 6, 7, but they started taking things for granted or starting getting sloppy with little details. And one thing about that league, it forces you to be accountable on a daily basis. And I think our guys at least understand when you show up for work, like you want to get paid, you got to work. You have to put your effort in, and it goes well beyond what you do in a building. It's just the way you live. So hopefully when our guys leave, they have some sense of that, And no matter what job they get, they're going to have to do that. And if they're, married and having a family, it's the same thing. There's a lot of hard times and commitment that is needed if you're going to be successful.
Jay Higgins and Sebastian Castro and Jamari Harris, all guys that are going to get opportunities. You obviously saw a lot in them. What does it mean that they also get to kind of prove themselves?
Yeah, I always tell our guys it doesn't matter how you get there. It really doesn't. It's all about getting there and then doing the most you can with your opportunity. We've had a lot of free agents do really well. And again, it's just you got to run the race. You got to show up every day and do your best. You may not get, the first entree to plan, but just bide your time. I'm sitting here laughing. I don't like to talk about my kids very much, but James Ferentz, when he went to Houston, he was number 78. Now he's a 6-foot center. And I'm sure the equipment guy looked at him. He said, look at this guy here. Take 78 because I'll get it back in 3 days. But that's part of being a free agent. You just don't ignore it. Just put it on and be happy you got a jersey and go. The good thing about the NFL is they truly evaluate you for what you do. So reputations, all that stuff out the window. If you're a first-round draft pick, that is significant. They don't cut them. I mean, that would really be newsworthy. But for the most part, if you do what you're supposed to do, you have an opportunity to make that team or 31 other teams. That's a great thing about the NFL. So if you can play well enough or coach well enough, you'll have work. But it's just you got to have that opportunity. So I tell our guys all the time, it doesn't matter how you get there. Just go do what you're supposed to do, and you'll be fine. Jay will do. I mean, he'll knock it out. He'll be great.
Yeah, I see it all the time. I mean, you got a guy like Christian Welch or Ben Neiman, Kayvon Merriweather, who was disappointing. It was, as Marvin McNutt would say, it was the best, worst day of my life is the last day of the draft because you're just waiting, and sometimes the call comes and sometimes it doesn't. Parker Hesse, who was really down in there. Yet they get in, they get an opportunity, they make it work. I'm sure. How do you ever cite those examples if you're talking to them about NFL? About some of you may end up being Tyler Linderbaum or Jack Campbell. Some of you may end up being Kayvon Merriweather or Christian Welch, but you're still going to get that opportunity.
Yeah, and those are things you can't control. Talked earlier about, everybody's at different experience levels, talent levels, and, the things you can't control, those are the things you need to work on. If you're 5'8" or 5'9", that's not going to change.
Yeah.
And, you can improve things, you can improve speed, you can improve this and that. But pretty much, we all have some constraints that way, but the attitude you take, the work ethic, just really being prepared to your best, showing up ready to go every day. Big difference between just being there or being ready to go and then actually doing it. And, that is football. That's certainly the NFL. It's a marathon. It's a long race. And you just don't want to give them a reason to cut you, basically is what it gets down to. So, that's what those guys, that's what they're going to be doing. But they'll do a great job with it.
All right. Coach Ferentz is going to answer your questions when we come back. All right. We have Coach Ferentz, and he's ready to answer some of your audience questions. Coach, has your philosophy of addressing needs changed with the portal versus developing high school talent?
So our approach to the portal has basically been to supplement our team, and we'll see how long we can keep doing it. But our goal is to just try to recruit guys out of high school. I think our staff's done a pretty good job of that, and they have a good idea of what we're looking for and what will work with us. So our preference is to get a guy from day one and just have him be with us the entire time in his career, watch him develop, watch him grow, and just teach him the things that we think are really important in the whole operation. But, that being said, you get caught, and we talked about the injuries to guys like Connor and Mason a couple of years ago. You get caught short. It's nice to go into the portal. So, in a perfect world, that part's pretty good. But obviously right now, things have really spiraled out there, and really concerned about that. Not to sound like the old guy in the room, but I guess I am nowadays in what we're doing. And it's not good for the game. Somehow, some way, we've got to. I think in theory, what is being proposed right now is going to help move us into a better place. But the way we're operating right now is just there's absolutely it's not good for anybody. It's not good for the players. It's not good for anybody long term. And, it's got to be contained.
Along those lines, this one's a two-parter, but how long do you think before we'll see the National College Football League with transfers and salaries being determined by a collective bargaining agreement? And then will you be coaching when that happens?
Yeah, that's a good question on both ends. Yeah, I guess there's obviously a reason we're not calling the players employees, even though they're going to be paid. It seems like a contradiction in terms somehow, some way, but I'm sure it's got something to do with taxes and legal things, that type of deal. But in essence, what we need, and ironically, my first year in the NFL was the first year of free agency. The thing that the NFL does have, which is really good, they've got a salary cap, and a contract means something. So if you sign a contract as a player or as a coach, you either work for that organization or you can sit home and not get paid. So it's a pretty easy choice usually for everybody involved. And then when your contract expires, you're free to go somewhere else, or you're free to try to, redo a deal where you're at. And then the salary cap concept is really important too. And I think what's being proposed right now, what's out there on the drawing board, is really a good step, a positive step. But without the salary cap, then you have to have a budget. Everybody's got to have a budget right now. If you got the money, you can spend it. And when all this stuff got started, it was the obvious, thing that stood out to me was it's just going to be a chance for the haves to really elevate themselves and the have-nots to be sink further. I don't think that's good for sports. I look at Major League Baseball. To me, it's a similar thing. If you can buy a team, go buy a team. And I grew up in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's a small market team and haven't been in the World Series in quite a while. There's probably a reason for that. They're not, not everybody's been a bad coach or player. So, those are the two things that we really need: are structure, which is going to help restrict movement, and then also a salary cap. So whatever that number everybody deems to be reasonable, everybody's got to operate that way. You could still pay a certain position, X amount of dollars, and then, cheat everybody else, or it'll force everybody to have a strategy and a plan, I guess, in a long-winded way. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We don't have that right now.
Last one. Is it harder to recruit with the new 105 roster limits and the transfer portal?
Yeah, and the 105 is really probably the biggest wild card right now. Yeah, and that was the thing. It's apparently the judges balked at a little bit. We went ahead and told our players back in December that if we couldn't guarantee them a spot, we wanted to be transparent with them, so they could all kind of fend for themselves. And we, a lot of them stay at the team. But long story short, we had a lot of guys, good guys that were good team guys, that have left our program this past semester. They're off starting a new career somewhere else. If this does get rescinded, or that we're going to come up short on that, which is unfortunate. So we'll see how that goes. But the 105 is, quite frankly, just an opinion. I think it's way too low. It's going to be really tough to manage that. It's going to change how we do things. We're going to have to really talk about that this summer. Didn't burn a lot of time on it this spring, but the summertime we're going to have to reevaluate. We'll probably have to practice a little bit more like a pro team, where the offense and defense work against each other a little bit more than we have in, but you find a solution. As long as the rules are the same for everybody, you make it work. But I think I was short-sighted, that number in itself. And the retire part and all that stuff, I mean, who the hell knows what's going to happen here? So we'll just kind of let it keep taking it a day at a time. And right now it's been great, and working with great guys every day, and that's the part that I enjoy.
All right, we'll wrap things up when we come back. All right, welcome back into Union Station. Coach Ferentz, we saved this one for last for a reason. You're one win from tying Woody Hayes' all-time record for most wins in Big Ten history. I know this is not why you got into coaching. I know you kind of want to get it done and over with, but it's going to happen. What does that mean to you?
Hopefully it's going to happen. Hopefully. I had a thought on that too, actually, because I had a friend bring that topic up last week. I thought he's a friend. So anyway, he's a lot more fixated than I am. But it occurred to me, I'm guessing close to setting the record for losses too. Is that fair? You probably know something like that, Scott. You're pretty good at trivia.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, so there's two ways to look at it. And, it's kind of representative of what we do. There are good days and bad days. But I think, anytime anything significantly good happens, especially in football, and it sounds cliche, but football is really the ultimate team sport. And, I remember distinctly, 27 years ago, my friend John Bridge taught school together with him for 2 years. We coached together and all that stuff. He was out here for our opening game. He was amazed how many people were in our organization besides the players. It kind of blew his mind. And, our operation's grown pretty significantly since then, that time. So my point is there's so many people that are involved in a football operation. My assistant, start with Rita. Yeah, she's been there for 3 head coaches. You can do the math. But she just makes things happen. We have so many people across the board that make contributions, and that's how good things happen, and that's been the best part about all this, just, working with really good people day in and day out, starting with the players, but then staff, support staff. So, hopefully good things will keep coming, and hopefully whatever number that is, it happens fast, so we can just kind of move on. Faster the better. Yeah.
Fair.
It's kind of interesting that if it does, it likely, you don't want to overlook the opener, but it could be Iowa State again, kind of like their 200 one was a couple years ago. That game is kind of fun to me, and just because I know how much angst it is for both sides and how important it is, but also there's angst, I'm sure, from your side. I know there is on the other side. So adding something like that, a milestone like that, how would that figure into the back of your mind, or would you just try to put it out as much as you can?
Yeah, I mean, it's not something I think about. It really isn't, and I'm not trying to be coy. I just don't think about it. And but sometimes you can't help because people keep bringing it up, and so it's just it is what it is. But I'd rather be dealing with that than not be dealing with it. I can say that for sure. And whenever it comes, it comes. I just maybe play a doubleheader the first week just to get out of the way and move on. You said it's 2, right?
Yeah, right.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Coach Ferentz, for being here. Thank you, Scott, for being here. And thank you, everyone, for coming as well as tuning in at home. This is our final on Iowa Live for this spring. We will see you again next fall.